Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we have a very special one. We have a London Taxi that has been converted with a Rover V8. This vehicle is owned by my mate Gary. He bought this vehicle 10 years ago with full intention of doing an engine conversion eventually. He's only just got round to that within the last 6 months. He's done this conversion with a Rover V8 and he's tried to keep it as factory looking as possible. The only concession to this as a conversion is there's a very small V8 badge on the front. The rest of it is absolutely factory. It's even got the fare information in the back. This one, when Gary got it, was a relatively low mileage example. It only had 160,000 miles on the clock. And if you know anything about London taxis, that is not a lot at all. There's no rust on the vehicle, and other than the overall aesthetic, you'd have no reason to think that this is a 25-year-old car. But I think that's enough talk about the taxi, and I think we should get it out on the road. So one of the first things what you notice with this vehicle is the amazing soundtrack. So this vehicle would originally come with a 2.7 litre diesel engine, which was very loud in here and borderline unbearable. Although this V8 is loud, it's a nice loud, and it's not that boring grumble what you'd expect from that old diesel engine. Gary's opted to keep with an automatic transmission in this vehicle, and he's made it mate up with all the old controls, so it looks pretty sweet. It looks factory in here, as it should do. This is my first time driving a London taxi, and it drives exactly how you'd probably expect one to drive. It is very, very boat-like. The brakes are very soft, and the steering's not all that responsive. But I think that just adds to the charm of this vehicle, and ultimately once it's got this V8 power plant in it, it's quite a pleasure to drive. It's enjoyable, it feels good behind the wheel, and yeah, it's not going to smoke anyone off the line, and it's not going to be the most comfortable ride, and it's not going to get the best mile per gallon, but it is definitely a hobbyist car, and I can totally understand why people would like one of these, and people would enjoy to build one of these. Along with the engine upgrades, Gary's also upgraded the rear differential. He's put a limited slip diff in the back, but he's left it on the 4 standard wheels, so traction's although not that great, it's helped out massively by that limited slip diff what he's put in there. I think one of the things that's totally apparent from this vehicle is the absolute total attention to detail what Gary's put into this build to keep that originality, but also the V8 build in the front is just so factory looking. And if you didn't know that this vehicle came with a V8, you could be forgiven for assuming that it was a factory vehicle. So one of my biggest criticisms of this vehicle is the brakes. Now Gary's told me that the earlier models of these came with drums on the front, and this one came with discs on the front. The discs are quite big, and apparently if you do really need to stop, they will stop you. But I think for sure getting back into my personal car when I'm going to drive home from this, I think there's going to be a few moments where I put myself through the windscreen by accident, because after getting used to the sponginess of this pedal, it's going to take some readjusting back to a normal car. It's still got the meter plumbed in above me, telling me how much I'm driving. That's obviously dated back to 2010, so we're getting the rates from 2010. And I'm sure if someone from London's watching this, seeing how much this drive's costing me, you'd probably be happy paying that in today's money. So if you're here for the same reason that I am, it's because you wanted to see a taxi with a V8 and hear that grumble. So I think it's only right that we give this taxi a bit of beans so we can listen to that soundtrack what's given out by that beautiful Rover V8, what Gary's put into it. Now although this isn't a speed demon, and it really was never intended to be, the Q2 what I've just finished test driving is probably faster than this. But there's one thing that this does do every time without fail, and that is put a smile on whoever's driving its face. The handling of this thing, as Gary said perfectly, is very, very similar to an old van. You definitely feel yourself rolling when you're going into those corners. So I think it's been all too common recently that people modifying cars are simply putting some alloy wheels on it, lowering it on some Stance Plus suspension and deeming that as a modified car. I personally miss vehicles like this. It's different. Gary's had an idea and he's done it himself. This apparently is only one of 3 in the world that has had this conversion. If you are interested in checking out any more to do with this build, you can always check out Gary's YouTube channel. He's got a few videos on this vehicle and you might want to check those out if you are interested in this taxi in particular. If you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.